What if 3 drones could destroy a $500 million oil rig before sunrise? At 2:07 a.m., the Black Sea didn't shimmer, it exploded. A flash so white it blinded satellites, a sound so low it bent the horizon. Within 60 seconds, a fortress of steel, concrete, and pride was gone, melted, twisted, and sinking into its own reflection. Tonight, we're diving into the operation that changed the map of the Black Sea. A strike born from silence, built on deception, and executed with surgical precision. You'll see how a $5 million swarm outsmarted $480 million in defenses, and why one forgotten signal turned into the most expensive minute of the war. Stay with me, because once you understand what happened at 2:07 a.m., you'll never look at the ocean the same way again. At 2:08 a.m., the horizon didn't glow, it detonated. 3 Ukrainian Katran-9 surface drones, each no larger than a small car, sliced across the water at 82 miles per hour, their engines whispering beneath the fog. From a distance, they looked like shadows racing their own reflections. At just 2.3 meters above the surface, they were invisible to radar, ghosts trained to kill silence itself. At 720 meters, the first detonation hit with the force of 950 pounds of TNT, shearing off the rig's primary antenna crown and punching a shockwave that rattled ships 15 miles away. The second drone struck. Seconds later, cutting through the lower platform where high-pressure fuel lines pumped 3,000 pounds per square inches. What followed wasn't a flame, it was a storm. A column of fire climbed 35 meters high. Heat sensors would later estimate over 1,900 degrees Celsius, bright enough to stain clouds, orange and white. Inside the rig, alarms died mid-scream. Circuits burst into static. The fortress, once valued at $465 million, was now burning from the inside out, its defensive network erased in under 58 seconds. The third drone didn't aim for the hull. It dived into the platform's command spine, severing the main data trunk, a digital decapitation so clean it left the system blind before it died. For a brief moment, the Black Sea was brighter than dawn, then darker than truth. No missiles, no jets, no fleets, just machines, small enough to fit in a garage rewriting the meaning of power. If you were the radar officer that night, would you have seen it coming before the sky turned white? 25 minutes before that eruption, the sea was calm, but the spectrum was not. At 1:42 a.m., aboard the Russian corvette Byron M, a sonar technician noticed something that didn't fit. A rhythmic echo repeating every 9.4 seconds. Too perfect, too symmetrical. Real submarines breathe irregularly. This one pulsed like a metronome. His instinct whispered trap. He reported the anomaly, and within 7 seconds, a Torum 2 missile streaked skyward, carving a vapor scar across 12 miles of black horizon. Its guidance radar switched to full power, flooding the sea with X-band energy at 9.3 gigahertzes. And in that moment, Russia's secret grid revealed itself. Every defensive node, every emission pattern, every hidden eye on the Black Sea lit up like a constellation on Ukraine's monitors. What looked like a counterattack was, in truth, a trigger. The missile wasn't chasing a submarine, it was chasing a ghost, a false echo generated by Ukraine's floating relay. A machine no larger than a fishing boat, suspended quietly beneath merchant traffic. That fake heartbeat lured an empire into turning on its own lights. At 1:43 a.m., as the missile faded into the night, Ukrainian operators had already locked on to the rig's command frequency. A 31-second window. That was all they needed. Enough to trace jamming sources, map radar arcs, and prepare the next strike. An electronic ambush that would blind an entire fortress before it even knew it was under attack. Every war has a moment where silence becomes the loudest sound. And this was it. If you were the commander aboard Byron M, would you have fired? Or waited just one more ping? Because what happens next? At 1:45 a.m., will prove how deadly one wrong signal can be. The order came as one coded pulse. Phase Delta. At 1:45 a.m., the lead Katran-9 drone unfolded its hidden weapon, a compact electronic warfare core pushing 790 kilowatts of directed energy into the Black Sea's damp air. Tuned precisely to 9.2-9.4 gigahertzes, the burst lasted only 43 seconds, yet it erased an entire defense network. On the rig, radar screens flared white, their clean green echoes dissolving into a storm of static snow. Thermal cameras rebooted in confusion. Command relays stuttered as metal vanes overheated under the surge of electromagnetic noise. Inside the control deck, operators pounded dead consoles, while alarms coughed out fragments of sound, syllables without meaning. The entire platform, built to dominate the spectrum, was now suffocating in it. From beneath the fog, a second Katran opened its twin hatches. 6 FPV micro-drones, each tethered to a 0.3mm fiber line, shot out low above the waves, immune to the jamming storm they had unleashed. Their navigation was manual, their vision blurred by interference, but their targets were already known. 3 veered toward the rig's GPS spoofing towers, 2 toward the east communications mast, and 1 climbed into the lattice of the main scaffold, a steel labyrinth only 80 centimeters wide. Its camera flickered, its targeting grid glowed green, and it dove. The detonation tore through the upper deck like a scalpel through glass. Temperature spikes reached 1,850 degrees Celsius, fusing copper conduits and liquefying sensor cores. For 40 seconds, the rig could neither see, hear, nor speak. When visibility returned, half its antennas were molten, and the rest folded into the sea. In that silence, the ocean didn't move. It listened, as the fortress it once feared began to unravel from within. 4 hours before the explosion that tore the Black Sea open, the sea lanes near Constanza looked routine merchant ships sliding east beneath sodium lights, tankers humming through fog. But among them moved a vessel that would rewrite the night. The freighter. Dora Line. No escort, no transponder anomaly, no sign of purpose. Yet inside container #47, sealed under coffee beans and steel bolts, was a secret heavier than its manifest, a 2.2-ton robotic relay module known as Neptune X, folded into steel like origami. Its cost, roughly $5.3 million. Its value, unmeasurable. At 27 nautical miles from the exclusion zone, a single crane lowered Neptune X into the dark. The drop took less than 80 seconds. Once free, the machine sank to 6 meters, switched to low power mode, and vanished. No radar echo, no AIS ping, only the faint shimmer of its calibration laser fading under the waves. Its role was simple yet surgical: act as an invisible bridge between Ukraine's coastal command and drones now drifting silently in enemy waters. Through a narrow 220 MHz encrypted channel, it could whisper coordinates across 190 miles of contested sea without a single signal spike on Russian sensors. Hours later, those whispers would become fire. Without Neptune X, the Katran swarm would have been deaf, blind, and lost. But with it, every drone knew when to rise, when to strike, and when to vanish. The sea had just accepted a ghost into its depths, and in that silence, the countdown had already begun. The night sky fractured again, this time not from Ukraine's hand, but from Russia's reaction. At 1:49 a.m., 2 Su-30 SM interceptors roared through the upper clouds at 29,500 feet, their radars locking on to the last known heat bloom of the Katran-9 drone, still glowing from its electromagnetic strike. Each fighter carried 4 R-77 missiles, seeker heads tuned to infrared precision. On the rig below, operators cheered, believing they had found the Phantom. But Katran-9 was built to die beautifully. Seconds before impact, it released 7 magnesium decoys, each burning at 2,600 degrees Celsius, brighter than the moon. The first missile curved away, chasing a lure into nothingness. The second detonated mid-air, its shockwaves scattering its own formation. The drones below didn't flinch. They were already preparing their reply. Beneath the waves. Talos 1-0, an underwater drone the size of a small car, shifted into attack mode. Depth: 19 meters. Distance: 460 meters from the rig's western leg. Payload: 2 mini torpedoes, each with a 9-pound shaped charge designed for structural fracture, not explosion. At 1:51 a.m., the first detonation hit like a muffled heartbeat. The water convulsed. Pressure sensors later measured 8,900 pounds per square inches at the fracture point, enough to tear concrete like paper. Hydraulic lines burst. Methane conduits ruptured. Flame met fuel. Above the surface, the sky split orange once more. The rig's western platform twisted 5 degrees starboard, its steel skeleton glowing red through the smoke. The counterstrike had failed because the hunters had just revealed their own position. By 2:15 a.m., the Black Sea was no longer dark. Where a fortress of steel and concrete had stood for decades, only a leaning, fire-drenched carcass remained. The once proud surveillance rig, Still 4, valued at nearly $465 million, now burned with a heat that sensors would later record at 2,200 degrees Celsius, hot enough to twist girders, melt titanium conduits, and vaporize entire banks of radar processors. Flames climbed nearly 35 meters into the air, feeding on 3,900 gallons of crude oil bleeding from ruptured pipes. The control decks, once filled with blinking consoles and encrypted comms, now flickered under arcs of blue lightning as power lines snapped like whips. The west support leg had collapsed completely, pulling the upper deck down 1.4 meters into the sea. One more fracture, and the entire structure would have slid beneath the waves. The Russian corvette Byron M circled helplessly in the thermal haze, its sonar blinded by turbulence, its radar jammed by its own electronic chaos. Every attempt to re-establish contact with the rig ended in static. For the first time, the Black Sea's electronic fog, the jamming grid that had distorted GPS across Crimea, Sevastopol, and Kherson, was gone. Across 320 miles of coastline, Ukrainian reconnaissance drones began transmitting crystal-clear telemetry. Long-range artillery units reported zero GPS drift. Coastal defense missiles, once veering off course, were now striking targets within 3 meters of accuracy. For Ukraine's Southern Command, it was as if someone had wiped dust off an entire theater of war. By 2:29 a.m., a commercial satellite caught an infrared frame of the disaster, a 22-foot thermal void glowing amid a molten field of metal. That image spread through maritime networks within hours. Insurance rates tripled. Cargo routes shifted west. Civilian ships marked the zone as Maritime Dead Sector 07. And by dawn, one truth had settled over every naval command post on the coast. Ukraine hadn't just destroyed a rig. It had dismantled an illusion that steel, distance, and data could ever make anyone untouchable. By dawn, the flames had faded, but the message remained: power is no longer measured in tons of steel or miles of radar. It's measured in silence, precision, and the courage to strike unseen. Ukraine didn't just destroy a $465 million rig. It rewrote the rules of modern warfare, proving that intelligence can outpace armor and algorithms can outfight artillery. The Black Sea, once ruled by fear and interference, now reflects a new reality that even the strongest fortress can fall to a whisper. So tell me, what do you think mattered most that night? The brilliance of the hidden relay or the sacrifice of the Katran drone? Drop your thoughts below, subscribe for the next mission, and remember, in this new age of war, the quietest weapon often speaks the loudest.